Now, so we're doing sticky hands. We're going to be stepping off clock face. But now, when you step off to one of the clock face positions, what you can do is eagle stance like this. And you can step back into your neutral position. And let's be touching the body, shall we? We can touch the body above the waist and below the neck. So as well as just using the, do you want to come a bit closer, guys? As well as just using the wrist contact, we're going to be learning to extend the contact right the way along the forearm here, up to the elbow. So just be careful, you mustn't impact somebody, especially around this area here with your elbow in training. That's dangerous. You can make contact. So anything to say, Rich? What were we working on yesterday, do you remember?
Reaction force.
Reaction force, what's that? Sounds like the Power Rangers.
Reaction force.
Reaction force. So we were talking yesterday about intent. It's something you don't really know what it is at first. You think, intent? What's he talking about? So we can just use force and muscle power to try to overpower the other person and push them off balance using our strength. If we've been to the gym and we've really been powering up with what is it you power up with at the gym? Don't give me that, you. I've seen you in the gym.
No, I don't anymore. Look, it's all soft and flabby.
Repetitions. Reps. Is it reps?
Yes.
And what's that about? Powering up. Anyway, we're not doing that. What was it again?
Reactive.
Intent.
So intent. What is the intent? You know, Martin, because you just bought a new tent, didn't you? That's the way I tell them. We're not in a tent. You were confused, weren't you? Now that's been cleared up. Now, with the intent, what happens is at first you've got absolutely no idea. And you're just thinking, right, I'm going to blast through and power this other person, I'm going to push him over. And you're like, I've done it. I beat them. And they're like, but you weren't using softness. And you're like, oh yeah. But then inside you're going, yeah, but I pushed him over. Isn't that right, Bri? That's cheating. Don't cheat. You're only cheating yourselves. It's possible to push someone over, but you're breaking out of the parameters of the exercise to do it. The parameter of the exercise is do not use force. Now I know what you're thinking, Chris, you must be using some force. I'm talking about force in the sense of forcing it. Forcing it. Like, I can go through the door there, I can push the door open. You're thinking, I remember my elementary physics, Chris. There is some forces involved. I'm talking about the door's jammed and you have to force it open. In other words, force against force. Not permitted. This is a lesson some of you are going to learn quickly. Some of you are never going to learn it. And for those of you who are never going to learn it, I recommend start now. Give up your wicked ways. Humour me. Try it. Now, with intent, what we're working on here is we're sensing what they're going to do. We start to become aware as we're moving around that there are sometimes alarm bells, danger time. Something's happening. We can feel our balance starting to go. We try and stop it happening. Other times, nothing. Neutral. This is it. The red flag, the alarm bells. And we start to sense the level. We've got 100% intent here and 100% intent here. We're trying to just sense the intention of where his percentage is. Sometimes it's naught. There's nothing. He's not got a clue. Sometimes he sees a weakness, he gets a plan in his mind, I'm going for this, and we start to sense the intent. Now, this is the yin side I'm talking about. Yesterday we were talking about, what was it? The dam busters, wasn't it?
Dam busters, yeah.
And what did the dam busters do?
Flew in low.
They went in under the radar. And this is what we're talking about in common terminology, going in under the radar. You don't actually have to go under, although that is a good strategy. It's more in the sense of not giving away your intentions, your intent. So you've got to be focused, absolutely focused, as sharp as a pin, but not let, are you all right there?
Yeah, just sneeze.
Not let them know. So this is the whole thing about being relaxed. I'm relaxed. It's like I don't really care. I'm not bothered. It seems like I'm not caring. Actually, it's not that I'm really caring, but let's say I want to make contact with his body. The reason being, out here, he can soak up my movement by adapting quite easily. We've got all these joints he can maneuver. As I get closer in towards his central core, the elbow, I've isolated one of the joints, haven't I? And so it's more difficult for him. I only need to do a small movement, he's got to do a bigger adaptation. But as we get closer into the core, now we're onto the shoulder, there's no joints to maneuver anymore. He can just turn his shoulders, that's all he can do. And so now I don't have to do much, and he's got to do quite a bit of adaptation in order to be able to worm his way out of it, hasn't he? Do you see? So even worse, if I touch his body, it's very difficult for him to escape. He can escape because he can turn, etc. But if he sees me coming, he's going to deal with it, isn't he? So I need to figure out where he's concentrating and where he's not. How am I going to do that? Any clues? Well, this is where the other side of the coin comes in, because we've got the yin side, come a bit closer now, we've got the yin side, which is sensing where he's concentrating, but there's also where I'm concentrating. So I have to figure out where my intent is. Not only that, but I can mask my intent. So I'm going in here with my lead hand, I'm making him aware of that. This is where I focus my attack. And look what he's doing. He's responding all up here. This isn't actually my plan A. This is my feint. My real attack is down here. But I have to open that area first. And the only way I can do it is to drop his guard. And I can control his response. I can control how much intent he puts into each hand by what I do. Because this is the whole beauty of this reaction. What we're doing is we're using the other's reaction to what we do, and this is what we're learning. Not to overpower their reaction, because it's wasteful. We're just cancelling out his force. What's the point? All that's going to happen is we're going to end up with nothing. Much better to add together my force and his force. If I do it well, I don't even need to use any force at all. Now, in order to just add some extra sort of spiciness into the mix a bit, what I do is I don't just use my normal 2 points of contact, I'm using 4, so I use the elbows as well. So what I'm learning to do is if he diverts my wrist, I use the elbow. If he diverts my elbow, I use the other hand. If he diverts the other hand, I use the other elbow. So I've got 4 things I can start switching back and forth with. Do you see? Not only, but learning to understand where his focus is, where his concentration is. I present him with a problem, and then he has to solve that problem. As he's solving it, I start creating another problem. Before he's created the solution, my second problem comes in. What I'm starting to do is overlap one problem onto the other, so there's no chance for him to solve these things. Do you see? Am I making any sense here? I know it sounds like trickery, but all it is really is developing your awareness of yourself and your intent, where you're concentrating, and being aware of his. And this is what comes through practical reaction and interaction. Now, if I aim at his core, if I can contact his body, I can pretty much stop him doing anything, because he's got to suddenly drop his whole attack and start defending himself. If he doesn't, I mean, if this was a real fight and I hit him there, I mean, that's really going to hurt him. It could actually permanently disable him. Even more so the throat. As you're coming closer to the person's head, where the sense organs are, first of all, the head's very heavy, and if you can not just physically move the head, but if you can make him move his own head out of your way, you've caused a disruption in his balance. But also, because the sense organs are there, when something comes from the face towards the face, there's a natural reaction, you can't really help it, of trying to withdraw. And the throat. If I go for the throat here, you can almost generate a kind of panic reaction where the person drops what they're doing. I mean, obviously you've got to be aware. It's no good leaving yourself open. You can't just hope they're going to give up. This is what comes through experience. You learn what is working and what doesn't.